Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
And the neighborhood tonight is First Street. And let me tell you, there's something that was here at one time during World War II that you're not going to believe. You see, you know where you are. There's McMahon's Auto and Diesel Repair, and you understand where you are along here. And we have a gentleman standing right here. He's Herb Campbell. He grew up in this area, Herb, right?
I sure did.
Highway patrolman for how many years?
27 years.
27 years.
A couple of years.
And he has a very interesting story that sort of put us on the trail of something that we didn't know about here in this Kennett area. Herb, what do you remember about this very spot we're standing on?
Well, we lived out in the country back then. I was probably 8 or 9, and come to town on Saturday, get groceries, and sometimes more often. And I remember when we drive by here, there was the prisoners, the Italian prisoners was out here. And
Italian prisoners?
Yeah, that's what I understand at the time, that they was Italian prisoners. Okay. And the fence was up, not too elaborate type fence. Of course, the fence that's up here now probably is more elaborate than what I remember that fence being then. And of course, what struck my mind too was one time, I don't know if it was every time, but there was a machine gun on the one corner over here on a tripod. Nobody was around it at that time. And
I bet as a kid you noticed the machine gun.
Oh yes, I thought that was really something, because I was fascinated with stuff that was concerned with the war at that time, even though I was small.
Okay, now what did they say to you? Do you remember how this was explained? What were these people doing here?
Oh, well, just from the older people, they were Italian prisoners that were here, that were captured over in a foreign country, and brought here to be kept until the war was over. What I remember about this block here, there wasn't anything.
Okay, you started with that. You think that the whole area?
The whole, including those houses back there. I don't recall seeing anything back out in here.
And certainly not here?
No.
And over here, Gibson's?
Over where Gibson's is, I don't remember anything being there. In fact, this, what I call the sewage ditch, was the border on the east side. And whenever I looked out, it kind of reminds you of a schoolyard. The people the men they'd have either a basketball court or volleyball. They was playing, having fun. And tents, there was a few tents up back out.
So they lived in tents. There was no permanent structure.
I don't remember there being any hard wood buildings. They looked like they were tents. And they just looked like they were really enjoying themselves.
And you kind of envied what they were getting to do.
Well, I was fascinated at, that things that you hear about the war and how peaceful and calm I think they were being treated, how well they were being treated.
I remember a lawyer in Germany who said the 2 years he was in a prisoner of war camp in the United States were the 2 best years of his life.
Well, I don't doubt that, because over at Portageville, where we used to live, there was a German prisoner of war camp over there.
At the same time?
Same time, and it was in what I call, they pick a kind of off-the-wall place, a low spot, not the best piece of ground that I would think that you would want to use, and the Germans were fenced in there. And after the war is over, even back in what I remember in the 70s, this German was probably a well-to-do German. He would come through and take vacations through America and made it a point to come by Portageville to visit people that he was acquainted with during the...
and show him where he
right,
had a strong, good spot in his heart for this.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's probably stories like that here, but I don't know them.
Okay. All right. So you've been listening to Herb Campbell relate, as a boy 8 years old, what he would see as he would go by this spot. Let me tell you what we're doing today. We just run around in all kinds of weather, doing all kinds of things. But today we have an idea of something we need to research. We have been told by two different people that during the war years there was an Italian prisoner of war camp here. Now, true or not, we don't know. So we're going in to see if the old newspapers hold any clue as to whether or not there was an Italian prisoner of war camp, and why and when and for how long. So come on, we'll go into the archives. All right, we're back. We remember where the archives are because we came back here during the filming of what happened during the Depression here in Dunklin County. We had heard about a sharecroppers' revolt that they demonstrated along the highway on the road to St. Louis, and we had heard none of that, so we came here to look. And if you remembered, we found very little here in these papers, but they were all over the St. Louis papers. But we're going back in these archives, and I don't know if you can see this or not. Oh, there's a treasure trove of information here. So will we find anything about a prisoner of war camp? Italian? Then someone else said, well, I heard it was German. Somewhere the truth lies, but we shall see. Come and look at these old files. Ed, are you able to see these? The paper is so brittle. One still has a date on it, December 1902. The later one's 1930 through 39. Here's the 20s through 29, and then on down to the 48, 1907, 1908. These would be so interesting to look through. Unfortunately, they are so brittle, but one day we may come down here and show you some of the prices of things and some of the things, but it's very interesting to pull out some of these old 1907, 1908 books just to look at the ads. They even have a file on the Cardwell Times, and I understand that before it was the twice-a-week Dunklin Democrat, it was the Kennett Clipper. But I don't see a file on the Kennett Clipper. But anyway, we're going to dig in to these 1940. We're going to specifically zero in on 42, 43, and 44 and see if we can find anything about an Italian prisoner of war camp here in the city of Kennett. We've pulled out 1943, and of course, this is the twice-a-week Dunklin Democrat. And the main item to dominate the front page, of course, is about war bonds and young man with a purpose, and the height of the war is going on right here in military names and services. One item, and we have done a show on this, is why this caught my eye. The Consolving case was the biggest news story of 1942. Now, we've had several people who talked about Dr. Floyd Consolving. He died May 5th, 1942. And the Hornersville's doctor's death furnished material for an important story. He was well known. It was big news, it says. A considerable fortune was located in a secret vault in the basement of his huge Hornersville home when it was revealed that the eccentric old gentleman had willed his wealth not to his children, but to the University of Missouri and the University of Louisville, Kentucky. The town of Hornersville buzzed with the excitement, and a metropolitan newspaper, reporters, and sightseers flocked to the scene. So the death of Dr. Consolving was the big item in January of 1943. Now, as I told you, we're on our way to trying to research anything about an Italian prisoner of war camp that was here during the war years. So we have things about draft dodgers, we have victory taxes, But nothing as yet that would lead us to know anything about the actual prisoner of war camp. And we turn on to January the 8th, 1943, and here you see $12,000 to $15,000 worth of tractors and trucks and implements, an auction of the late Dr. Kinsolving's, all of his farm property. I guess all of this looks like John Deere cultivators and middle busters and iron wheel wagons and so forth, in terms of the sale or cash. On January the 15th, the front page carried the news that the Kinsolving goods were sold for $17,000. Which was quite a sum in 1943. On August 17th, 1943, we see war prisoners to be available here. Procedure to get cotton pickers. Now, that's what it was about. We couldn't understand why they would bring Italian prisoners of war here for a short period of time, but there was more to it than that. Dunklin County has an opportunity to secure the services of not less than 300 and possibly more Italian prisoners of war who were interned in the Weingarten prison camp near St. Genevieve. So they were being held in St. Genevieve. We may use them, 300 of them. The main difficulty standing in the way of bringing the Italian prisoners to this county to supplement the local labor, which is insufficient to properly harvest the large crop, which is estimated at 80,000 bales, is the manner of housing the group of prisoners, together with the Army personnel, which of necessity must accompany the group. And they've appointed a committee here, and the committee, composed of Fred Shilen, Earl Jones, Kimball Swindle, is making a survey of facilities. It's thought it would be impractical to bring in less than 300 of the prisoners, who would be accompanied by all the guard details, another 100 soldiers, making a total of some 400 individuals who would have to be housed in one group. More than this number could be made available if we could use them. The contract that the government requires to be signed before the prisoners could be brought from the prison camp includes, among other things, the stipulation that some individuals must put up an amount of money to guarantee the cost of transportation to and from the camp, plus the cost of rations at 70 cents a day for the entire group for the period of time they're here, that the prison labor would be used. The government must also approve the housing facilities, which must provide certain sanitary provisions, electric lights, inside and out, and a barbed wire enclosure. The prisoners will receive 80 cents a day for the time they work and must also be furnished with rations. So here is the beginning of the idea for the prisoner of war camp. It was for farm labor. Now, I have not heard that from anyone who has said anything to me about this. We're going to talk with several people now that we've found this article and know what happened. We're going to show you where they were housed. I don't know that we can show you anyone's field they worked in, but we can talk to some people who saw them through this fenced enclosure firsthand. We'll hunt up some of those people for you.
You have been